Looks like we might be live
Yes.
on YouTube.
Okay.
Right.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Connection with Spirit. I'm Deborah Epstein, and I am with my friend,
Larissa Russell.
Russell.
Who's very oddly colored today. I look like a geisha for some reason, like white and red. I'm not too sure what's going on here. But I woke up this morning with what looked like cat scratches all over my face. It started yesterday afternoon. We didn't talk about, we should have probably talked about this before we went live. But anyways, I woke up with all like these weird scratches and bumps on my face. And I had cut my nails yesterday morning, so it wasn't me. And it started yesterday afternoon when I was alone in my office. And then I woke up this morning and I had scratches all over. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but
very interesting.
Weird things. Anyway.
Strange happenings.
Not what we're here to talk about, but I just looked at it. That's an interesting.
I think it's good while we're waiting for people to come on, like, hey, if you have anything weird happening, put it in the chat.
In the chat, share with us your weird things that I always have weird things that are happening though. So I'm just going to cover my face back up again so that I don't have to look at that. Because it just throws me for a loop, right? When I'm like, I don't look like that when I look in the mirror, when I look at, and so anyway, whatever it is. Welcome everyone to our ramblings.
Trust us, we're very focused today.
For the moment. We were just having this amazing conversation and I was like, why were we not live for that? So we were just catching up on, we had talked about this topic last week that we wanted to share with you today. And then of course we got right back into it immediately as soon as we were like, oh, like, just to recap, what are we going to talk about today? And we got so deep in it, then I was like, oh man, that's good stuff. So at some point we might have to like pull out those things. We keep talking about it, share them to a Patreon or something like that and share that stuff. But anyways, you missed some good stuff. We'll try to recap it, but we're going to have an amazing conversation anyways, like we always do. Yeah.
And I can bring myself right back to it. It's interesting. I don't know if it's a little off topic, but we were talking about, how that we affect change in what we're seeing on social media, people we follow, and, the disappointment still, the fear still, and then also the doubling down of women who are wanting to step deeper into their power, their spiritual practices. I don't know if you guys are experiencing that within yourself, like, not running from, like in fear. Well, I'm so afraid I have to, dive into my spiritual practice. It's almost like you feel it as a strengthening of spirituality and spiritual practices and those things that we were already doing before. But now it feels expanded. And so I was kind of talking about energy and, you were talking about the feminine energy and the divine feminine, the divine masculine, that kind of stuff. So I don't know if you want to kind of pick up from there. And
yeah, because, it was sort of like what got us into that like deepness of it was, I had noticed, a change in the languaging and women are really just stepping into, I need to look after this. I can't rely on anybody else. Right. And so, and women, when they step into their power, come together, right? That's a big thing about women. And so we were talking then about what power means in the patriarchy versus as a feminine energy. In the patriarchy, power is about power over, right? I must push you down for me to rise. And feminine energy power is about the power within. And when we build that power within, we actually come together and build each other. And that's the amazing part about it. And so having that energy, starting to see that really shine, I don't know, for lack of a better word, because it's been building. It's definitely been building. But there was something that switched with that election. And I'm not even in your country, right?
Yeah.
I live in a totally different country, but we have been globally affected by your election.
Yeah.
And seeing that has been like, there was like a switch with that
Yeah.
election. And yeah, women are stepping up.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's I think because we're becoming more aware that we are so very connected. I think it's, not that it wasn't affecting things globally anyway. We just weren't as aware of the effects, like we're feeling it now. So those shifts that are happening energetically are affecting us as well. And it's so funny because when I tap into the field, it is that like strengthening, like I'm woman, hear me roar, but not in a battle cry, not in the same, like the patriarchal dominance. Now we're going to shift the balance and now women are going to be in charge and you men better watch out and da 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 da. It's not that feel at all. It's that coming into our own, recognizing our own power. We've done the inner work and those vibrational shifts that are happening. And that's kind of what I was talking about too, is that the changes that you're seeing on the outside is because you're doing the work on the inside. And it's how we're seeing the world isn't the same. That's how we manifest. And it's so funny because I feel like I myself am receiving more information about that, because of the work that I do. I do a lot of work with the land. I do a lot of work with the feminine energy. That's nature is feminine,
Yeah.
It's, there's not that there isn't the masculine woven in there, but it's predominantly, it's all about growth. It's all about flow. It's all about like releasing and allowing, not and pushing when you have to push, right? So
Yeah.
we need that masculine push at times, but it's like we're becoming wiser women, to feel the rhythms and trial and error too, right? Because when you're in a new way of being, and the energy is different and you're starting to notice it, it's letting yourself acclimate to sometimes the weirdness of what's happening. And I was also sharing how like, like I've had some different interesting experiences this week with opportunities that are arising, and they're very much in alignment right now with where I want to go. But it's November now, and it's taken the year to kind of shift myself to get into the flow of the direction my life wants to take. And I say that almost like I have no power of it, but what I'm really working on is connection with my soul and what my soul is here to do versus what I think I need from a survival place, and how insidious that is. That is the result of living in a patriarchal society, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much in that survival mode.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, talking about survival mode. After the election, I had that first wake up where it's like, oh, I'm never getting out of bed again. And then the next moment very clearly came to me about change, right? And how our brains, they don't like change, right? It's a safety mechanism. Let's keep everything the same, status quo. Don't do anything that's going to rock the boat like that. We know this might be crazy, but we know it. So let's not change that. And and so it made perfect sense the election went the way it did. And then as things have unfolded this week or couple of weeks, I guess now, it's been about, seeing the changes that are actually happening, right? Those women, the empowerment that's happening. And this is a catalyst that was needed for that. Would we have, shifted when we needed to shift if it hadn't happened?
Right.
Because we need that catalyst. Because of
Yeah.
course our brains are trying to keep everything the same.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, now it's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Thought it was going to be the same, but it's not the same. So, oh, now we don't know. And then everything shifts. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely needed. Do I like it?
Yeah.
No, but needed.
Mm-hmm.
Needed. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have to remember too that everything's happening for us, right? So that doesn't mean that you're going to like it every single time, right? You know,
Mhm.
it's not, and it's not coming from a place, it's for your own good. We're all here to grow and expand as souls. So you know, if your lesson, you know, and I know one of mine is, you know, to learn about unconditional love, I'm not going to be thrown into like overwhelming love. That's where I came from as a soul, right? I'm going to be wanting to experience like, where is it not unconditional? Where is it very conditioned? And where is it, you know, where I have to go through, wow, this person was very not, you know, very harsh and very not loving, and see if I can find within them the thing to love, you know. And it's always going to be the soul, and it's finding our way back to the truth of who we are is the soul, and we're souls, and all of this is we're acting it out. It's a play, you know. We're acting, all of us are acting out a drama, and we all have these archetypes that we have, and we move our energy through those. And when we become aware that that is what we're doing, and you picture yourself on the grand stage, that's where life becomes a lot more fun and a lot more interesting.
It is so true. And the more we settle into ourselves, right? It comes to it's that self-awareness, letting go of our ideas of how things are supposed to be. Or
Mm-hmm.
if you were like me, oh, I got a very clear message from spirit. Oh, I see that. Okay, I'm going to run over there and get that. Not allowing for the journey. Yes, I was shown this thing, but I didn't allow for the journey. And so when you open up to that, and you may not like every step of it, you may not even like the end result of it, but it is for your higher good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
often talk about that with intuition, that inner knowing, because we expect it to be something we want.
Yeah.
And it's not always something we want,
Mm-hmm.
but it is for our um, best self, best self. Morning, morning
Good
from Australia.
morning.
Must be
Good
early
morning,
morning too.
Australia.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. That's awesome to see you there.
Yes. And please, everyone, feel free to weigh in anything we say. Sometimes the chat is a little delayed. So if it was a certain point, maybe, mention what the point was for, because sometimes there's a delay in the chat.
Yeah.
I don't always
Yeah.
see it right away.
And I also want to invite, like, you know, this isn't a Republican bashing party or a Democrat bashing party or vice versa, whatever,
Men versus
whatever.
women, none of that. Yeah.
Yeah, this is just like, let this be a safe place for you to share how you see the world, because this is what we need to start moving into as well, is not like the right or wrong of a viewpoint, but that your viewpoint is valid. It's how you see the world. It's not about well, my view is the only view and it's the one that is right. You know, imagine what our conversations would be like if we were coming from that way, from that place, instead of going, well, oh, that's right, I can't listen to that, I got to shut that off. It's take it in, learn something about somebody, how someone else views it. You may hear something that you hadn't thought of before, or you may, you know, just find that, like, you know what, I really like how I look at the world. I don't, you know, not to defend or protect, but to really, like, I guess I'm using the word double down a lot, double down on how you see it. Like, this just, you know, this just reinforces for me why I see it the way I see it, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
please feel free. This is a safe space. No, you know, non-judgmental, you know, because I think too, we need to have dialogues if there's opposing viewpoints or differing viewpoints, to help us all gain understanding of a situation that we only ever have our singular view of, you know?
And I have to say, I am interested. I mean, I don't know a lot of people who vote for, oh, my son-in-law. I was going to say, I don't know a lot of people who vote for, the opposite of what I would vote for. Um, but the the question, like, where does that come from? Whether you think you're right or you think I'm wrong, you're right on whatever. Like, what goes into that, right?
Mhm.
Because we all come from these different experiences,
Yeah.
and there's a reason that we vote in the way we vote, or we don't vote,
Hmm.
no. Um, and there's a reason behind that. But like you said, the open dialogue of, what is, what is your thoughts on that? Why you voted the way you did?
Hmm.
And, I can get judgmental. I'm human in the moment, right? It's a safety mechanism again, right? Our brains do that right away. We judge a situation. We have to. We walk into a space, our brains, we need to know, is this a safe space? Right? But then what do you do in the next moment? And I'll have a debate. I'll have a debate with you. Although often I'm like, just explain to me your thoughts. But then I also want to be able to explain my thoughts, right?
Right. Right. It
It has
has
to be
to
a
be,
two-way. It can't be,
yes.
I'm just
Yeah.
listening to you. It
Yep.
has to be a two-way. And
Yeah.
so those conversations I think are important because when we only have one, it is really hard now on the internet to get opposing views
Yeah.
because the um, algorithms bring you more of what you believe already, what you're looking for, right?
Yeah. Isn't that funny though? Because that's how the universe works in a sense, right?
Yeah,
What you're focused on.
manifesting,
Yeah.
right?
What you're focused on is what you see in the world, right?
Yeah.
It's where my energy flows, where my attention goes, my energy flows. And that's what I get back. That's the
Mhm.
reflection. So I'm like, isn't that interesting too?
Yeah.
It's very interesting. What was I going to say? I guess to your question, I had a couple of thoughts of like, when I felt like that occurred and when I was acting it out too
Hmm.
in my life. Religious beliefs is a huge place where
Hmm.
I'm right about everything and the way you think about it is wrong,
Yeah. Well, except for
and
me because we think the same, but yeah.
yeah. And then also healing modalities.
Hmm.
This one works, that one doesn't. And I think I got big lessons in that because my dad, very big influence in my life, was very much of that ilk, right? This is Christianity, you need this, if you're not, you're going to hell. And it was a very narrow, very narrow viewpoint. And as I was growing up and hearing this, and I'm going, well, there's this religion, and they say almost the same thing. And I'd get into arguments with my dad all the time about this. And then my major mentor in learning body work, John Barnes, was also kind of like because he's promoting his method, and there's no, it's the end all be all. And
Hmm.
even now, like, I mean, it's from doing that work that I followed, the pathway into shamanism, because it was like kind of the next, it was almost like a nut. A lot of therapists that are trained in myofascial release by John Barnes end up picking up some sort of shamanic shamanic lineage, because he doesn't have a lineage that he's working from, but he teaches very much in a shamanic perspective.
Hmm.
And he even points to that when he's talking like different forms of shamanism. But now that people have started doing that, he's like, well, you're not, you're kind of watering down my work, and shamanism and blah 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 blah. So it's very much, I believe his viewpoint of like mine's the end all be all is very much from a sales
Hmm.
perspective. And but kind of, I want to say, growing up in that environment, I very much took that in, because my experience of receiving that work, it was the best I've ever received.
Hmm.
And it's the only, it was really the only work out of all of the work. And trust me, I've tried a lot of modalities that connected all of the dots for me. But that's not to say, just because that was my experience, that's not to say that other modalities won't work for you and they're just garbage unless you do this. So it's, there's I guess we could say, maybe because my experience was, I'm citing two very important men in my life. Could that possibly be another patriarchal viewpoint leaking in and me acting it out?
The one
Yeah.
way, the one and only way.
The one and only way. There's only one. Now, if I hear that, I'm like, no. No.
Yeah, that over probably even religion, politics, anything, there's only one way. I don't care what you're talking about. I get my back up on that one because
Yeah.
there's never only one way.
Yeah.
We're all unique individuals. We all learn differently. We all need different things. We come from different backgrounds. There is never one way.
Yeah. And plus, we don't have enough information on the rest of the 99.999% of the unseen world. We don't have enough information to know how it really works because it's so much more vast than
Mm,
our little 0.00001 brain can handle it, you
yeah.
know?
When I was younger, before I had kids, I went to every Christian church like for a period of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would do like 6 months to a year in every kind of Christian faith. And then sort of stopped. And then after my daughter was, I don't know, maybe 11 or 12 or something like that, but she came home and talked about nature-based religions. I'll just say that. And and then I was like, oh, that opened up a whole, I had to explore that and went down
Mm-hmm.
that whole, and I have taken bits and pieces from everything to make my spirituality
Mm-hmm.
directly to spirit. I don't need an organized religion of any kind.
Yeah, it's dogma, basically, right? Rules that go with that, how you are to act in your faith. And, just like you, found around the world and around all the different cultures, there are so many common threads,
Mhm.
right? So many common threads. And, it's how that's where I feel like that's where the truths are, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Find
Yeah.
those.
Yeah.
And yeah. And it
And
doesn't matter what it is.
right.
Um, yeah. And then,
We're making it up anyway, right? As human beings, the rules that and doctrines and dogma and all that kind of stuff is all made up. I mean, you think about a simple superstition. I'm thinking of a baseball player, um, Garcia Parra, in for the Boston Red Sox years and years and years ago. He said like get up to bat and he'd be flip, 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 and do. And it was like this whole thing, but that was the thing, the ritual that he needed to perform in his mind, he thought, to get a home run. He was an awesome hitter. So it obviously worked for him. But we all have things like that we create for ourselves, our little rituals or little, our rules about how things work for us, right? And who am I to say the ones you have for you that work for you are like, what are you crazy? That's wrong. That's not right. I think that's that trying to create, I'm going to use the word hive mind,
Mhm.
so that um, we're not harmonized as unique individuals. We're homogenized and made to be the same,
Yeah.
which that's not
Because it's
unity.
easier,
Yeah.
right? It's easier to navigate humans if we make them all the same.
Yeah.
So, right from birth, the dogma starts on whatever it is, the belief systems. We're not born with belief systems. So, all of that starts. And then, if back when it was factories, so they just started the children early in the factories. But, cubicle mindset isn't our school system the perfect cubicle mindset, right? Sit in a row, behave, stay silent, don't say anything, do what you're
Mm-hmm.
told, and then you just progress and you end up in a cubicle and you're doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it makes perfect sense, right? And so how do we have people expressing themselves and then we shut down all those things where they express themselves? Creativity is not important, music's not important. None of those things are important in our culture because, produce is important.
Yeah.
What other people value is important, not what you value. And then the patriarchy, of course, is men are more important, white men, even more important.
Mm-hmm.
We have these ridiculous levels. And yeah, so then we have to be, oh, maybe that's not working for me, which
Mm-hmm.
can be really hard to do because you have to buck the whole system, right? You go up against all of that. So as you become more self aware, realizing these things aren't working for you, you then also have to go, oh, okay, but if I'm going to affect change for myself, it's going to change everything around me,
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so often people will start, I did it for many, many years, stop, start, stop, start, right? And then it builds up to a certain point where you can't unlearn. So it's like you get to a certain point and it's shifted and, oh, okay, well, this actually turned out pretty good. And then you kind of do a back and forth there. And then it shifts enough that it, because it's hard. It's hard to keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But some of us have to. We have no choice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel like I have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
I am not good with the status quo. I've never been good with the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that have to might be what your soul is here to experience. And that's what it feels like, mission, you
Hmm.
know? So, and I guess you do have a choice to not surrender to it and fight it.
Yeah. Which I
Yeah.
tried for many years. It just about killed me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I
And,
just
and
keep ending up in it.
it's the same thing with, neurodiversity, being autistic and ADHD, these labels that I have. This is labels that our world uses. I think of it more of being at a different frequency.
Mhm.
And so I believe that we're seeing more of it because we're allowing, right? We're allowing ourselves to reach those frequency levels.
Mhm.
And so there's not as much ability to contain it. Before they would just lock you up, they would just put you away so you conformed or you were locked up.
Yeah.
And over time it's gotten, you know, especially women, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like anything out of the norm, you're hysterical and into the asylum you'd go. And
Yeah, or you need a hysterectomy, which is the whole root word of hysteria, hysterectomy.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so I personally believe that neurodiversity is a different frequency that
I agree.
we're
Yeah.
more and more moving into,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I agree with you. It's we're vibrationally shifting as the earth is shifting in vibration. And if you're tuning in, it's going to me, I feel like it's going to happen anyway. The quick, it's just like anything else. If it's going to happen anyway, it's how much we resist is how horrible it's going to be. Right.
Hmm.
And
What you
it
resist persists.
yes, yeah, right. So I feel like you're only kidding yourself when like you're getting a message from spirit or your message from your soul or your guides or however you want to categorize that. I'm starting to get like a lot more open about like whatever you even call that, because for some of us it's guides. I think it's part of how we create. I actually believe it's part of us on a larger scale. I believe we're multidimensional. I believe like some of our guides are parts of us coming and talking to us. Um, and that was introduced to me a long time ago, and I was like, huh? When I first heard, like, how could that be? But like the more I delve into this work, like I'm like, well, that's quite possible, and it's as human beings, we like to bring things outside of ourselves to be able to learn from it, right? So whatever you want to call that, right? When you start to form relationship with those parts, aspects of yourself, or your soul, we start to think we're crazy because we have this history and it wasn't even that long ago that women would get locked up, or let's say people would get locked up. People probably still get locked up for having a spiritual experience that there is no one to guide them through it. It's
Mm.
called a psychosis or a psychotic break, or it's this or it's that. And once you have that label on it, it's really hard for you to move past it because you start to identify with the labels. And what if it is just a shifting in frequency and our brains are being used a little differently? And we're so like in our culture, I think globally, we're so used to being up here.
Mhm.
And, the new earth energies are more about being heart-centered, coming,
Feeling into it.
yeah, feeling into it.
So disconnected to how we feel.
Yeah.
as of the way our culture is. Yeah.
I was listening to Barbara Handclough speak. She has this book. It's something about the 9 dimension, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. You have to look her up, Barbara Handclough. And she's coming out, I think her new book, it's like a revised edition of a book that she wrote back in 2012. And it's all about the dimensions. But the way she was talking about it, I was like, oh my God, I've never heard anyone talk about it this way, that the different frequencies she aligned to the chakras. So living in the 3rd dimension, down here, everything's will. 4th dimension, heart. 5th dimension, up here. 6th dimension, right? 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, right? And so those are all our energy centers that if we can open them up and start to engage them, that's the frequency shift. So it's not like this place we're going to travel to. That's the 5th dimension where the buildings are a little bit different than the ones that were in the 3rd dimension. It's how we be in those frequencies, in those energies. And our bodies are changing, our mind is changing. And so it just makes sense. As energy shift, matter has to shift. And so we also have to be gentle with ourselves as we're going through the transformation of becoming, knowing who we are as luminous beings, and human beings.
Yes. Yeah. And it's tricky because we get so much input from this world that we live in, and then we have to learn to feel in. We have to relearn to feel in. We came knowing it, and then it's taught, out of us.
Well, it's protection, right? I mean, raise your hand if you grew up with trauma, or don't.
Yes.
I mean, it's survival to start block. Is sometimes, like, if you're empathic too, if you came in to be a healer, or that's your pathway, empathy is a great skill to have as a healer. And I had to learn it took me a while to learn it. What's mine? What's not mine? Even now, I still a little bit will go, it's funny. I'm thinking of an incident that I had the other day running crossing paths with this woman the last few days. It's funny. I didn't see her today because I finally went, oh, I got it. Like, because I asked the question, what is she here to teach me? But she was just like invasive. Like, she has her little dog, and I'm with my husband who's blind and our dog, and I'm trying to really teach him to not lunge. He's still a pup, kind of, he's going to be 3, but he's still a lot of puppy in him. And he's a big dog. He's almost 100 pounds. So it's a lot to manage. So it's when I see someone coming, because a lot of people don't like to keep their dogs to themselves, and they don't read body language either. So, like, I always pull him tight to me so that he doesn't have the opportunity to lunge, because he loves lunging at everybody, right? And my husband's out, he's excited. Love people. But she's like totally ignoring all of the signs. I'm pulling him tight, moving over. So she just is letting her little dog like run around, and we move past it. Well, the other day, she was walking right toward us, and I stopped because my husband has to be able to feel. You have, like, I'm waiting for her to pull over, and I'm like telling him, swing your cane. So she gets the idea that she's got to get out of the way. It wasn't making any sense, because she was very focused on, I am going to let my dog play with their dog. And then when she came by and she's trying to do it again, and I pulled my dog away and actually pulled off the side of the sidewalk and onto the dirt, she made a comment, like a passive aggressive comment. And I was like, oh, I hate that. Right. So I turn around and I just shot at her, ma'am, this is not about you. My husband is blind, and we're trying to train our dog to behave on the leash. And when you let your dog just roam because you want your dog to play with my dog, it causes a huge problem for us. And then she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. And I said, thank you. And then that was that. but then, so I was like, oh, that was cool. That worked out well. But then don't you know, like what my brain does, I have to find a way, because I stood up for myself and I said, like, I acted on, setting a boundary for me and my family. And that's still like, that's like little shaky part there. Are you sure you want to, like, do this? And then I was like, did I speak too harshly to her? Did I, and I had to go like, shut up.
Time.
Yeah.
Enough with the
Enough.
chatter
Enough.
already.
Let it go. Because we're here to teach others too, right? It's not like it's not about me trying to be a good person and allowing her to do whatever. It's like, no, she obviously has boundary issues.
Yeah.
And it's my job to set the boundary. I did it in a nice way, right? It's just that I needed to do it. I do actually hate being pushed to that point where I have to do it, but I have a lot more skill at it now. And it's only like, it takes like about an hour or so before like the old program kicks in. And then the work begins. So,
Work is a really interesting one too. And I would say the majority of women I know, like some people think I have really strong boundaries, and I do in some areas, but
yeah,
I definitely do not in other areas.
yeah,
But boundaries are one of those ones that women, it's an empowerment thing, right? Boundary setting. And there's still going to be places, you might have really clear boundaries in one place, but not so clear boundaries in another place. And even when you have clear boundaries, they're healthy for you. Your brain is going to kick in and tell you all the things you did wrong. You were, spoke too harshly, or maybe you should have let them do this or that.
yeah.
But it's an interesting thing that we do.
Yeah. And that's, you're making me think of a really good point. So you're kind of setting this up with what you just said, is that that's how you know when it's your programming talking to you versus your soul talking to you, because your soul doesn't judge it.
Mm-hmm.
Your programs will, because your programs want you to go back
Yeah.
into whatever. Your soul's like, yeah, let's take it on. Let's have the experience, right? Have
Mm-hmm.
the feelings that go with the change. And it's funny, my husband's doing a lot of work on himself right now. And I think I told you he's taking a class with Robert Ohado,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all on the inner child and stuff like that. And it's really interesting watching him kind of more standing into it in his power. For a guy, he really was very disempowered as a little one, so he's really coming into his own. And I think in a way that's like very beautiful, because he received a lot of harshness, so he didn't he it's not like he turned around and I'm gonna like disempower you. It's more of like he's in that ilk of like, because it was done to me, I can't do it to someone else, but now I don't know what to do. I don't know how to be, because here's what it's, as a guy, here's what's expected of me, but I'm like, I can't do that, because that's not right. It doesn't sit with him.
Mm-hmm.
So he's learning really how to empower himself. And there's times where he says to me, he's like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm in trouble, or I feel like I'm doing something wrong. And I'm like, congratulations, because that means something's shifting.
True. It's so true. But yeah, when you're questioning all of those, it means there's been a shift, because your brain is like, no, 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 we should have been over there. We should have been
Yeah.
following the rules. We should have done what we've
Yeah.
always done.
Yeah, so it's going to trigger all of the systems. So what is trying to grow when you start feeling like you're in trouble? It's your self-esteem, right? And it's fighting to keep the status quo, because that's what kept you safe. Like that's what your body remembers, your mind remembers, all parts of you remember. And then you get that like little pesky program in there that, like, if you act against it, it's like the authority, right? That's what's really interesting about all of this. So we don't always need authority, but yet it's all around us. And I think that if we had a more free society, I really do think that we would do the right thing. I really do. I think we could be self-policing, and
Yeah,
doing unto
there's
others.
areas
And
where they've done studies on that, right?
yeah, yeah,
And absolutely, it's the more. we put rules in place, the less people want to follow them.
Right. How can I break this? I mean, like, yeah, it's like how many times, I mean, in business too, like you have to be able to find a way to survive and thrive in your business, not just survive, but thrive in your business. And some of the rules that are set against, like, especially a small business, it's almost like set against you. So it's like you have to, the system sets it up so that in order for you to thrive, you have to not be as honest as maybe you'd like to be, because it's a little too costly sometimes, you
Sometimes,
know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, until you can prove yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's part of the thing, that masculine energy of business,
Yeah.
right? In is the because we're so taught to produce, 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 and we only have
Mhm.
value if someone else values us. And
Yeah.
so moving into that heart-centered business model doesn't come quickly. You don't make,
Mhm.
probably as much as you could,
Yep.
but you have to feel good within your own self, feel good with what you're sharing in the world, and be able to thrive in your business, support yourself, support your needs, and do all of those things. And
Hmm.
that takes a lot longer
Yeah.
than the masculine business model. The
Yep.
feminine business model is much more in flow. It doesn't mean it can't happen, but it's not going to be an overnight thing. It's
Right.
much
And
slower.
yeah, and that's the experience I'm having right now, and it is working. Like, really, I feel like I'm refining what is it that I want my life to look like versus like how much money can I make, or this is how much money I need to survive, right?
Mhm.
I got to pay this bill, this bill, this bill, this bill. All of that remains true. And it takes a huge shifting, because as it's coming out of my mouth, I'm like, this doesn't even sound right. But when you shift to your focus to what it is that you really want, you desire to experience in your life and get out of the need to survive, things really do line up for you. But yes, it does take time. And I'm seeing, like, after a
Yeah.
year, right? And not all of but Larissa knows, nail biter.
And when you have bills to pay,
Yeah.
it's so easy to slip back into, oh my God, I'm not going to have enough. I don't have enough, which where your mind goes, that's where
Yep.
everything follows. And so being able to step back from that and stay in that desire, that place of expansion is difficult,
Yes.
right? It's not what we're taught. And then the reality is very solid. I have bills to pay,
Yeah.
right?
And I have a feeling that part of what I'm here to teach next is that, like, abundance, because I'm experiencing it right now.
Mm-hmm.
I have to let go of what it looks like in my bank account totally, and go, I have enough, you know. I do, and things come in, like, really come in, and then I keep going to myself, like, can I have, like, more of a cushion? Can I have more of a cushion just to make me feel good? It's like, nope, you can't. We're gonna, like, it's almost like it's an initiation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm being put to the test. Like, do I, what I really say I believe, can I live it? Can I let it be a lived experience? How much do I really need to have that I don't? I mean, if it's in my bank account, do I really have it anyway? It's available for me, but it's not in my hand. It's like a number on a screen that, like, I just happen to believe belongs to me because I said it does, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a total, like, it's a total mindset shift, right? And through action and going, like, wow, like, look, yeah, wow, this is cool. It's cool when like, when I see the evidence of it. But when it's not happening, or I get into an old program of, like, oh, I had fun today, oh, I did not work hard today. But it's like, that's what I want to have fun. I want that to be the base of the work that I do.
Mm-hmm.
So, and
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not the only one doing this right now. I feel like a lot of us are doing this right now. And that's awesome, because that's how we shift it. We individually have to move through it and see that, okay, like you say, I didn't die.
Yeah. So when we say in my community a lot, right? Not gonna die. But our brains don't know the difference between stepping in front of a bus and trying something new. And so we have to remind ourselves, I'm not gonna die if I do this. I'm not gonna die.
Yeah.
And when it comes to finances in particular, it can be
Mhm.
really difficult because our whole culture, our whole society, a way of being is so monetarily driven.
Yeah.
And so this idea of I'm going to die if I don't have, I'm going to be homeless, I'm going to be living in a cardboard box.
Mhm.
And when you believe that, yeah, that absolutely could happen.
Yeah.
And you use that then to drive yourself, but you're not moving into that desire place, into that expansion place, into that place of love,
Mhm.
going into survival mode. And
Yeah.
so, yes, you might increase the finances that you have, but you're also pushing everything else away. And so, to have everything, you have to move into that flow of energy, love, expansion,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Yeah. If you want to live from your heart space, then you have to live from your heart space. And that means all that it entails. It doesn't mean you're going to starve to death. That's
Mhm.
not my experience. And out in nature, I mean, I love living in the desert for this one reason. I really do see how there is such an abundance in nature, with sometimes a lack of abundance of water. These plants here have learned how to send their roots deep to find water, and they do live. Some of them die, yeah, if we have a drought long enough, but like, it's like the trust in the universe that rain comes when it's needed, and that there's resources, and they know how to pull their resources in, and like, so maybe we don't go out to dinner 5 nights a week, we cook more at home, or it's like, it's not the end of the world. You can have There's so much you can learn to enjoy when you're not just throwing your money around here and there, but that's fun too, right? So it just because you're in a certain place for a certain time doesn't mean it's not gonna shift. Because I always use this analogy, because this is how it feels like to me. It's like you're in your big ocean liner, and you're on the ocean and you're heading across, and then someone goes, hey, instead of going to Europe, let's go down to Australia, or let's go down to South America. And I'm like halfway over there, so now I got to turn my big ocean liner around pretty much and go the other way. Well, they don't turn on a dime, right? And then you have all the momentum of the water going with you, right? Because at a certain point you start building up velocity and maximum velocity, and things are starting to work with you. Well,
Mhm.
when you have to kind of do an all stop, you're still heading in that direction, even though you hit the all stop, right? And then you have to wait to be able to turn the ship around and then build momentum again. And I feel like that's what I'm in right now, and I feel like that's okay. It's, what am I going to do in that space and time?
Mhm.
Am I going to panic? Am I going to wring my hands? Am I going to, God, why are you doing this? Right?
There'll
Flail
be
against it.
moments of that, though. There
Yes.
will be moments
Moments.
of that.
Yes.
It's staying in that,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And that's the thing. We're humans.
Yeah.
And so there will be moments of that. But then it's also, no, I know I can feel it. It's fine.
Yeah. There's just no other way. And I'm not saying that the way I'm doing it is the way everybody should be doing it. It's just the way I'm doing it. It's the lessons that my soul is asking me to allow myself to learn. And how that works, I don't know. But I don't have all the answers. But I know for me that, like, at times like this, when I see magic happening, I'm like, cool, it was all worth it. But
Yeah.
we have like short attention spans and very short memories. And so, like, in a week when things are going shitty again, I'll be like, ah. Hopefully I'm learning, but
That's part of it too, though, right? It's like
yeah.
it's like the election. Yeah, I'm not happy with the outcome, but I do see the necessity
Yes.
or I mean, it could have been something else. I do see that a catalyst was needed
Yeah.
to affect change. And
Yep.
so things are not always going to be perfect when we're in flow. Things are
Mm-hmm.
not, because we still, our human brain is going to go, oh, but that's not what I want. That's not how I want it to be. That's not how I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it doesn't mean we're not in flow. And so
Mm-hmm.
allowing for that as well, allowing for our humanness in all
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
And just, because it's messy. It's messy
Yeah.
to be human.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, we've been saying for the last few years, now's the time, now's the time, now's the time, and we're going through this great transformation and now's the time. It's like, we're like, now is always the time. It's like, now is always the time. It's like, and it just it's an evolutionary process. It's not like, if for some reason we have this like mindset of finality, like, and I think it's, like, oh, I get here and I'm at this plateau and this is the thing. My experience in life it's just been this evolutionary process. Yep. The one constant is, the art, the healing, transformation. That's like, that's the thread that I see. Like, if I look back at my life, the things that I gravitated towards naturally all have to do with that. So it's just in some form or another, it's transformation, it's healing, it's art and healing. It's in, mysticism and those things that really, like, get my nerd up and like, I love this stuff. But
Yes.
yeah, and I can be very passionate about it. But it's there's a commonality. I'm pretty sure that if we all look back through our lives, you will see the thread. You do know there is a part of you that knows what you're here to do. And it's that thing that you keep gravitating towards, that you keep going like, well, if it's art, how am I ever going to make money at that? Ask a different question.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, ask a different question about that and said, how am I going to make money at that?
And again, what we're taught, right? And so, yeah,
Yeah.
when we open up to anything is possible, anything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine 10 years ago? Okay, maybe 10 years ago, we could have, 20 years ago, definitely not.
Yeah.
You know, um, someone like Mr. T being elected as president. No, because it was so particular. They had to be married once only. They had to, long time marriage, had to have spotless record, had to like all the things, right?
Yeah.
And we see that all the time. So if you had said, 20 years ago, oh, that this person would be president one day, everyone would have laughed, would be like, well, no, that could never happen.
Yeah.
Anything is possible. And
Yep.
so think about that when you're stuck in, oh, I can't do that, or how would I possibly do that? You don't always have to know the answer.
Yeah.
Well, you probably aren't going to know the answer.
Yeah.
That's what always gets me in trouble is I think I know the answer.
Yeah. How does this want to express through me? How does
Mm,
this want to express through me?
yeah.
And instead of like, you know, you need to make money. You're not just like flipping around, but like, I really think like, since The Secret came out, like, we've all been talking about manifesting, but we're playing with it like it's a toy, like, oh, I'm going to manifest a bicycle or a parking space or whatever. And
Mhm.
there's a lot now of people saying like, I guess, and maybe they have been for a while too, like, the more leaders and the teachers in those communities, like how, like, what a mistake that was to let that out because it gave people the wrong idea. But I think in a sense it kind of helped people understand that you're
We're
powerful.
manifesting
Yeah.
all the time,
Yeah.
right? We're always manifesting.
Everything in your life right now is a
Yes.
manifestation by you.
And so if you want it
We
to
don't
be
like to hear
different,
that
you
though.
have to move towards something different.
Right.
And so the more you stay the same, the less chance that things will change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's that making wrong too. Like, I just kind of like saw something for a second. I'm like, yeah, we also have this thing. If we don't like it, it's wrong. So like, oh, the stuff in my life that like I thought I wanted, but I didn't want, it's just wrong. So now if you're in your life and you have, a life around you that like, well, I like this part of it and I like this part, but that part, oh, now you're in resistance to that thing. At one point in time, you thought it was a good idea. Or it came along with something else, right? I want this thing, but this is the other thing that comes along with it, right? Because there's always that kind of thing too.
Yeah.
That's why you got to love it all. You have to send love to it all. It doesn't mean because you love it that it means you want to keep doing it like that, right? Have a vision for the direction you want to go in, and bless every single thing that you have in your life right now, because it came in as a gift for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you, the energy that you want, what I would like to say, instead of worrying about the individual things like I want that car or I want this much money, think about how you want your world to be. Think about how you want your life to be. How do you want to feel in your life? Is it X number of dollars, or is it not having the stress of money? Which is a
Mm-hmm.
completely different thing than X number of dollars, because X number of dollars brings new stresses. So, how do you want to feel? How do you want to show up in the world? What kind of world do you want to live in? And put your energy into that, and everything else will figure itself out. Uh, yeah,
That's beautiful.
that's a mic drop moment, I think, right there. So
Yeah.
that's like we're done.
See you later.
Just thought
And
of it,
everybody
and I
hops
was
off.
like, we're just going to be wrapping up right away. And I was like, oh, this really needs to be said.
Yeah, I kind of felt that in before I started saying what I was saying, yeah, that's, we have to stop creating our lives from a place of, I don't want to say selfishness, but self-centeredness, like we're the only ones that exist.
Mhm.
There, we have to, that's part of our awareness that we are interconnected, that what I do affects the whole. And so if I'm living in a mindset of, like, say, competition, where there's only just enough, if there's a limitation, there's only just enough for a few people, I'm going to make sure I get mine before you get yours so I can have what I want. And too bad, sad over there. It's a different mindset, right? There's a congruence of things that, we want for ourselves. And if we start operating from the experiences versus the needing to have a hold of, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
What kind of life do we want to be living? What kind of world do we want to live in?
Great question.
And then,
Yeah.
yeah. And when we decide on that, put the energy into that
Mm-hmm.
instead of hanging
Yeah.
on to the things that we want.
Yeah.
It's looked at the time too. Uh,
Yeah.
any final
2026.
thoughts and what's going on in your world while we get ready to wrap?
Oh, well, I am actually at the lodge. I'm running a special. If you book your 2025 stay by December 15th, I think it is, you get 3 of your 7-night stay for free.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so that's a very good deal. It doesn't mean the work we do is still, you have to pay for that, but
Yeah.
it's the arrangements to stay in the lodge is three of those nights are for free. So if it's something you've been thinking about wanting to do, hop on a call with me. You can get onto my website. I think all the links are going to be under here somewhere on your YouTube channel, how to get a hold of me.
Yeah, on my YouTube channel this month, this might be the last month. If people jump over and help Deb out, she needs
Yeah.
a few more people before we can stream to her channel as well.
Yep. It's slowly growing, but yeah, we need 50. And what did you say? That was at
39
39
when
when we
got
jumped
on
off?
here. Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh, so close. 11 more.
Yeah.
11 more of you wonderful people to just click subscribe, and we can stream to both platforms, which will be very cool. And also, I'm uploading a program that I did, I think it was 2023, I think, that I did this 7-part from your head to your heart, going through all the chakras. So it's an
Mhm.
art, there's an art making thing, there's a meditation thing, and it's to help, in a little conversation to help open up each chakra to kind of raise your vibration and shift you. So I'm loading that up onto my YouTube channel now. So I think I have three there now. It takes a long time for things to load up. So I thought I was going to do it all in one day. No.
I actually do find this is totally off topic, but you can bulk upload and it takes the
Ooh.
same amount of time to do it all at once. So
Oh,
Yeah, we can talk about that later.
Yeah. I already know what to do. We don't even need to have that conversation.
Yes, little YouTube tip. And it is much quicker. I usually do it when I'm going to bed, and then just everything's up there and boom, it's done. And
Beautiful. Yeah. So see,
yeah,
this is the woman you go to when you want information on how to do stuff. Right here is Larissa.
research is one of my it's like, I don't want to say it's a passion, but I'm so curious. I have to know all the things.
Yeah.
So anytime I don't know something, and I know I don't know it, because there's a lot of things I don't know, but anytime I know that I don't know it, well, I got to figure it out. I got to figure it
Hmm.
out. So
Yeah.
yeah, I am. I think that's what my community, my mastermind community likes about me, is that I do all that research and then I just present it in a workshop or a challenge, make it super easy for them.
They learn by
Yes.
doing, which is how we all learn, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
so what do you got going on over there?
Heart-Centered Academy is, we're all on the new platform. Finally, we're finding so many issues, but we're cleaning them up.
Yay.
Most people would not know there's issues. I do, but most people would not. So that's wonderful. We have our Empowered Living program, which is a daily program for meditation, gratitude, journaling, and some other things that just escaped me. Daily intention setting and calendar planning. So we every morning doing those things really, and
Sounds
visualization
wonderful.
makes a
Yeah.
difference. And then of course our business mastermind for women with heart-centered businesses who want to do things differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Feminine
So
energy.
I love the resources that you have for people, as what the conversation we just had,
Mm,
about how to shift and, knowing that you need to shift, but you're a little afraid. And here you are with this great support system
yeah,
for,
yeah.
for
Well,
just
and
that.
that's my whole, um, I don't want to say my intention moving
Mhm.
forward is empowerment,
Yeah.
especially of women. And
Mhm.
so having tools in place that can help, support systems that help, community that helps. Yeah, really important to me. So, and
Awesome.
again, those links will be below as well. And so thank you so much
Thank
for being
you.
here. Leave
Yes.
comments. We do answer them. We do see them afterwards. Leave comments. And thank you for joining us. We will be back next month. And well, I'm going to talk to Deb. You know, I talk to her every week, but we'll be back with you next month. And so hopefully you can join us again. So bye for now.
Bye.